Hello everybody and welcome back to another My Porch Prints tutorials. This is Kyra and today I'm going to be showing you how to make a stacked envelope journal. So this is a little similar to a project we've done in the past, but it's also different in a lot of ways. So before we get into it, I wanted to let you guys know that we do have a freebie available with today's video. So this will be available in our Facebook group, or you can buy it in our Etsy shop, and we will have those links down in the description box for you if you are interested. Now with the stacked envelope journal, what it is it's a single journal that's meant to look like a stack of envelopes, and when you open it, it actually has three different sections. So the first one is more decorative, like with decorative pages. The second section is just some blank pages for like drawing and things like that. And then the third section has a bunch of pages for writing with like lined papers. And they all still have the envelope pockets and everything like that. It's just a slightly different variation from the previous like envelope journals that I've made. So I will be showing you how to put this together from start to finish in all of its full glory here. But I also am going to be doing a second bonus project, which is a little bit simpler than the stack of envelopes journal. And that is going to be this little Corset Back clasp journal here. It's also made out of envelopes, but from the kit specifically. So if you don't have your own envelopes, you can just print out the ones from the kit and still make something kind of cool and fun. And we are going to be using the new Autumn Academia kit that we have out this month. So you can use any kit for this if you want. This is just the one I'm using since I already had it printed and I really liked the papers and wanted to make some sort of a project with it. So that's what I'm going to be showing you today. It's a bit of a longer tutorial, so hang in there with me and let's get started. Alright, so for the signature for the stacked envelope journal, I went ahead and printed off some papers from that Autumn Academia kit, and I printed them off at 80%. So that is, if you go into your printer settings, you can change the percentage of scale. And so I changed mine from 100% down to 80% because I wanted them slightly smaller to fit inside of the envelopes that I have, which we have those envelopes linked down below in the description box if you're interested. These are specifically 5 by 7 inch envelopes, so 80% seem to work well for that. You might have to play with the percentage a little bit as you go to make sure that you get the right size. So maybe print one out and see how you like it. And then I printed mine front and back. Of course, you could always print them out regular, cut them, and then glue them back to back if you'd rather do that instead. And then I just printed them out on regular paper, folding them in half. I did 3 pages, so that makes, that should be 6 pages and 12 single pages in total. And then I also tore up some coffee dyed paper and just added a couple of those in there to give it a little more texture. And I did end up using one larger sheet of coffee dyed paper as well. So that would make a total of 6, 7, I think, is it 8? 8 pages, I think? Well, plus the little one, so 10? You don't want to add too many papers because this is about as thick as you would want it to be. Otherwise your envelopes will start to kind of pop open. So I would say 6 to 8 pages in total would probably be enough. And I did go ahead and add this little card image on the front because I realized I printed out some of the same papers twice. So I just covered up some of the images with one of the decorative card pieces from the kit. And then I've also gone ahead and done the same thing. I printed out some blank papers here and some lined papers as well from the kit. So blank front and back, and then lined front and back. And I believe that I have, let's see here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 of these, of the blank papers. So printed, again, front and back. And that is plenty, trust me. So that'll be enough for the signature. And then I also went ahead and inked the edges of all of these. I'm using the Vintage Photo ink, which we will have, again, linked down below in our website. We have a whole list of supplies. And then I also went and used a bone folder to smooth out the creases of my signatures because you really want these to be as flat as possible for the best result. And then, of course, again, doing the lined papers, I believe I printed 7 of these. And again, just sort of messy, going along the edges with the Distress ink, folding them in half. All of these are printed on regular paper, front and back, at that 80% size. So all you will need are these 3 signatures. And once you have all of those put together, we can go ahead and start working on the envelope itself. All right, so for that, we are going to need 4 of those brown 5 by 7 inch envelopes here, and I've just laid them all out so you can see exactly what I'm doing. Don't worry if you get a little bit confused during this part and have to rewatch it. I messed up the first time I put them together too, because I'm just kind of making it up out of my head here. But it's not too simple once you get it down. So we're just gonna take this first envelope and we're gonna tuck the seal on the opposite side of the other envelope like this. So when you flip it over, you should have this little flap on both sides here, just like this. And you want the flap on the right for this next part. So we're gonna do this, where we're going to wrap this other envelope around the front like this. And then it should be around the back of the entire envelope stack that we just made. So this is one of those things that's kind of hard to talk about. It's easier to just sort of show you what I'm doing. So one more time, just like this. All right. And that's going to make the first sort of opening crease here like this. So now we can go ahead and add our other piece here. So if you want to have 2 signatures, you're going to want to put it this way. So if you're only doing 2, let's say you're just doing the blank inlined, you could put the envelope over so the flat part this way. But if you want it to have 3 signatures, which is what we're doing today, you want the envelope flap to be on the inside like this. All right, I know that's a little complicated, but I just wanted to put it out there in case you wanted to try making one with only 2 signatures instead of 3, you can do that. But since we're not doing the 2, we're doing 3, we're gonna put it like this. And it's gonna go around the back of the envelope stack like this with the flap inside, and there you go. That is going to make the complete base for our stack of envelopes journal. All right, so now we can go ahead and start gluing things down. So we're gonna try to get everything lined up as even as possible. We want all of those edges of the envelopes to be stacked perfectly on top of one another if we can. And then I'm going to be taking some Fabri-Tac, which is a water-based glue. I like it a lot. It holds fabric, it holds paper, it holds metal, and it doesn't wrinkle. We do have this, again, in our list of supplies if you're interested. It's a little more expensive than some other glues, but it holds really, really well, so it's kind of worth it for us. All right, so we're just going to glue this left flap down here. Again, trying to keep things centered as best we can. And then once that's dry, we're going to flip it open here. So this flap goes on the left like this. All right. And we're gonna go ahead and glue that flap down. And this is gonna hold those 2 envelopes together. All right, so just adding glue all over the little envelope flap like this. And then we will glue it down. Just like so. And then for the last envelope, which is going to help hold the entire thing together here, we're going to go ahead and glue this flap down to the final inside envelope. So it's just this loose envelope that's going on the back like this. And then with this one, it's just a little bit different because we want to be careful adding glue to the tip here. I actually didn't think about that when I was first doing it. You don't need to put any glue on the very tip of the envelope, because when you fold it over, I'll show you here in a second, you want to make sure that that part is not glued down, otherwise you won't have access to the pocket because it's glued shut thanks to that little flap. So you want to make sure that when you're gluing it down, you don't glue down the little tip here. So I just went ahead and before it dried, I went ahead and kind of pried that part up, realizing I needed this pocket. Here you can see I'm panicking a little. I'm like, oh no, no, but it's okay. So just make sure that you don't glue this little tip down. Otherwise, you won't be able to use that pocket. And we want to use that pocket so we can fill it with lots of fun ephemera pieces. Right, and then once that is done, your envelope should open like this. So you've got section 1, Then you can open up in the center for section 2, and then open up the back like this for section 3. So you know you've done it right if you can get all of those sections like this. So 1, 2, 3 sections. All right. So for the one that only has 2, I have that example here because it was actually a mistake. So if you do the envelope on the other side, it'll give you 2 sections instead. So it opens up like this in the back, which is just a little bit different here. And you can see you've got 1 section and then 2 sections, and then this part swings out from there. And that's the reason that you can only have 2 sections, is because if you sewed something into that crease there, you wouldn't be able to open that back flap. So anyway, just giving you guys options if you want them. All right, so now that we have our envelope with the 3 sections, we can go ahead and add our signatures into the envelope. So for this, to do things a little bit different, I wanted to try using brad binding instead of sewing. So that's what I did today. So for that, we're going to take our signature and just open it up to the center spread here. We want it very center. All of these are just stacked together, folded in half to make a signature. And then we are going to clip them down with a couple of clips to make sure that they don't move. I just kind of tried to keep it centered in the envelopes. And then once you line up these creases, we can go ahead and poke some holes in it. So I'm using an awl for this. You can use anything sharp. And I'm just going to be making a hole roughly right in the center. And when you poke it through, you want to go through the crease. Try not to go through this, like this back flap here. We don't want to poke through that. So just going through the crease, something like this. All right, and then once that's done, I'm going to take one of these mini brads that I have. Again, these are linked in our supplies list if you're interested. And I'm gonna push it through the back of the envelope right where that crease is. And I'm going to twist it so that the prongs are going vertically up and down instead of side to side, and then flatten those little prongs out like this. That way the journal can still closed. And then I noticed that the brad, like because of the way that the head was like sticking out, it was getting this page caught underneath it, and it was possible to kind of like cut your fingers on it a little bit. So I decided to go ahead and flatten it using a pair of needle nose pliers. And these brad heads are super soft metal, so it's really not that hard. You just go ahead and pinch the sides like this, sort of like pinching them down a little bit. And it makes it more of like an oval shape, and that way nothing's getting caught on it, those edges aren't sticking out, so you can't hurt your fingers. It's completely smooth, and it actually looks kind of cute too. I like it a lot. So that's what I did for mine. Of course, you can always just sew yours in, which I'll be showing with the second envelope, or you know, use a different kind of brad or whatever you want to do to secure your pages in. This is just what I'm doing. And so for the second hole, I'm going to go ahead and poke another one sort of near the top, maybe an inch lower from the top of the page. We don't want it too high or the pages might tear. So you want it about 1/2 inch to 1 inch down from the top of the pages. And again, just adding our brad through the back, flattening out the prongs, and then go ahead and squeeze that brad head flatter so that you don't hurt yourself here. And then again, same thing, but from the bottom, we're going up about 1 inch, 1/2 inch to 1 inch, and poking a hole right through the crease. And then we can add our brad, and that is going to finish up securing our first signature into our stack of envelopes journal. All right, so when we remove the clips, you can see that the pages are secure, and I am going to go over each of my pages with a bone folder to help smooth them out, because you can see it kind of has a little bit of like dimension and volume to it here, and I want to keep it as flat as possible to kind of keep that stack of envelopes illusion. So it really does help to go through and either use a bone folder or your hands, and you can just flatten each of the pages down, and that's going to make a big difference in the long run. All right, just like that. There you can see our first signature is done. So for the second one, we're going to open it up to the center section, and you can already see that I have some brads that are here, so I cannot put more brads in those same places on the crease. So instead of using 3 brads for this one, we're going to only be using 2, and I'm going to be putting them in between all of these other brads. Okay, so let me show you how to do that real fast. So taking our second signature here, I'm using the blank pages for mine and clipping it down same as before. I'm going to be taking an awl and poking out my holes, but to make sure that I get them where I want them, you could go through the back, but I found that a little bit difficult. So instead what I did was I put my finger where I wanted the brad to be on the back, like the outside, and then I just felt with my other finger on the other side and kind of eyeballed and looked to make sure that they were lined up. And once I knew exactly where I wanted to put it, I just held my finger on the inside in place, and then using a pencil, I marked where that area was. So that was a really quick and kind of dirty method. You could use, you know, a ruler and just do all your measurements. This is kind of the lazy crafter's way of doing it. So this is how I'm going to. So I'm going to mark out 2 holes, one in between each of the other brads I have roughly centered. And then I am going to be doing the same process as before, taking my awl, and I'm going to just poke out those holes that we made, that we marked with the pencil here. Same thing, just kind of poking through. And you could use like a micro hole punch for this as well if it'll reach. I like the awl because it's just a little bit simpler because it'll reach no matter where I need them. And then again, adding those brads from the back, from the outside, and flattening them. And then we can go ahead and remove those clips. And now we have our second signature in, and you can see there are all of the brads along the edges here. And again, just go ahead and flatten those down so that they match. And mine aren't perfectly even, but I am not too worried about it. If you want to measure things out, you absolutely can. I'm gonna go ahead and just kind of do it quick since I'm showing you guys a tutorial for this one. And then flattening out all of those pages, and now we can go ahead and move on to our third signature since we have the first 2 done. So we're gonna flip the envelope over and open it to the back sort of signature space there. And taking our lined paper signature, same process, but we can go ahead and go back to 3 brads since there are none on this side. So just taking the clip, clipping the pages in, you know the drill. Add the brads, wash, rinse, repeat. Same process here. All right, so we've got the 3 brads and I'm flattening them like this. And there you go, that is our final signature put in. Again, you'll want to press those pages down, but now you should have the beginnings of your stacked envelope journal. All right, so let's go ahead and get to a little bit of decorating here, some of the fun stuff, you know, now that we have all of our signatures in here. I'm not going to be doing a ton of decorating. You could do as much or as little as you want. You could just leave it like this if you'd like to, or, you know, you could like do something really, really decorative. I'm just going to go ahead and do something kind of in the middle here, just for an example. So I'm going to be taking some of the ephemera from this kit, and I'm just going to be tucking it into the pockets here like this. So we got these natural envelope pockets that are made when we make this journal, which is nice and fun here. And you can tuck anything you want in here. It could be ephemera, it could be cards, it could be more notebook paper, anything you'd like. All right, and then for this one, because there's not a pocket here, I'm gonna go ahead and use the freebie and do a little bit of decorating. So I'm taking the freebie centerpiece and corners, and then I'm also taking one of the like large pocket tags from the kit, a lace doily, and a page tab and a journal word. And that's what I'm gonna be doing to decorate. So I went ahead and laid everything out kind of how I liked it, and then just glued it down using Fabri-Tac here. So I'm gonna go ahead and add this lace doily, which I do have a tutorial in our shorts on how I make this in the microwave, just really fast, dipping it in coffee and microwaving it. So check that out if you're interested. And then I added the page tab to this large tag here. And then I'm just going to glue this centerpiece on top of it and add a journal word near the bottom. Just like this. And there you go. I'm going to go ahead and just let that dry, and that page is decorated. So now we can go ahead and go back to filling the pockets with some more ephemera pieces here. And you can use paper clips and things to help keep stuff from sliding around if you want. I would recommend using mini paper clips instead of large paper clips because they will make your journal bulkier. So the smaller ones are nicer for that. And then opening it up to the last signature in the back here, I'm going to be adding a layered pocket. So I'm just taking these pockets that come with the kit as well as one of those large tags, and I'm adding glue to the sides and the bottom, and I'm just sort of stacking them down the tag like this. And then I'm gonna go along, I'm gonna go along the entire thing, there we go, with some Fabri-Tac on the sides and bottom here. And I'm gonna glue that down onto the envelope like this. And I am going to add a couple of these note cards that come with the add-on kit for the Autumn Academia kit specifically. And I'm just going to use a couple page tabs on those and tuck those into each of the pockets like this. And then I also had this like scrap from an old kit, as well as this journal word. You can buy, we have plenty of like coffee dyed frames and things like that you can use. So I just wanted to make a little frame for the journal word and glue that on there to finish that up. And then I have these grunge papers that were in a scrap box. I think they're just the decorative grunge papers printed at about 70%. And I just threw those in there as well. You could use anything you want. Those are just what I had in my scrap box next to me. And now that we are done with that, I'm going to go ahead and do a little decorating on the front of the envelope. So you can take your stack of envelopes journal here and just trace around the outside of it to get like roughly the right size. And then from there, I'm just going to trim it down a little bit on all of the sides to give me a slight border around it like this. So you just want it slightly smaller than the front of your envelope like this. And then I'm also going to be doing something similar but with a piece of coffee dyed paper, and I just went around the edges with a little bit of distress ink and rounded off those corners to make it look a little more finished. And I'm just going to be gluing that down in the center. All right, and then tracing around the envelope flap here, I'm going to cut out a piece to go on the top of the envelope. And again, I did trim that slightly smaller so that I would have a border. And then because I have really bad handwriting, I'm going to instead be using a stamp here, and I'm just going to stamp some writing onto that coffee dyed piece. And then I took it to my sewing machine and gave it like a little zigzag border right around the coffee dyed paper like that, just for some extra fun decorating. And then I'm using real hardware on this, but you could use the ones that come with the freebie or any corners you have to go ahead and decorate the corners of this piece. And then finishing it up with a little bit of distress ink and gluing it down with Fabri-Tac to the very front part of the envelope. And then I went ahead and traced out another sort of envelope flat piece from the coffee dyed paper, and I'm trimming this quite a bit smaller because I want it to fit inside of the first piece that we made. And I'm going to go over both of those with some distress ink, just like this. And then I also decided to grab, I have this like postage stamp set. I will see if I can find a link to that and put it down below if I can. And I'm just adding some stamps here. You could use like real stamps if you have them, or you could use some faux stamps. We have a million of those in our shop. So if you find some you like, you could use those as well, or you could leave it. It's completely up to you. All right, and then I'm gonna go ahead and glue those flaps down just like this. So you can see I cut them a bit smaller so it leaves that border, which looks really nice here. And then I'm gonna add the coffee dyed one on top of that. And now I'm gonna be using one of those faux wax seals that come with the freebie here. And I'm gonna be using this to hold the flap shut. So when we're adding glue, we want to only add glue to like the bottom portion of this. So I placed it where I thought it looked good, and then I'm just going to kind of mark underneath that area with a pencil so I know exactly where to add my glue. So I'm just going to do a little dollop of that right down here, just like that, using that Fabri-Tac. And then I'm going to glue the seal down. And I like to tuck this part in so I make sure that everything is still in the right place. And I'm going to keep moving it so that it doesn't accidentally glue that flap down. That's not what we want here. So I'm just going to kind of keep checking it every now and again, making sure that that is glued down, but that it leaves enough room for the flap here. So once that is completely dried, I'm going to be taking a little bit of twine to help finish it up. Now I didn't measure, I just kind of cut a large chunk. I think in this case it's better to have too much than too little, so make sure you get plenty. And I have two different pieces. I have this one longer piece, so I'm just going to go ahead and wrap it around my envelope like this. So you kind of like wrap it around and then cross it over itself. And I'm going to tie it in the back like this, just make a little bow here. Just like that. And then I'm going to take the second piece of twine I have, which is shorter, and I'm going to wrap it around the back coming to the front. And I'm gonna tie another bow here. Just for decoration. You could use anything you want. You could glue a flap down or add a big ribbon or a bow or none at all. It's entirely up to you. I thought this just kind of looked like a cute little, you know, like a stack of envelopes you would get in the mail. Cute little ribbon here. All right, so that is what it looks like when it is completely finished. You see, we kind of have that illusion of like a stack of envelopes, which I think is just cute and fun. And I like that it's actually just one full journal. So yeah, I had a lot of fun with this. I was kind of just making it up as I went, but I'm really happy with how it turned out. So I hope that you guys enjoy it too. So I'll do a little flip through here. This is similar to another set of envelope journals I made, but they only had one signature in them and I didn't use brad binding, so it was fun to try something new. And if you liked that first video, I kind of hope that you'll give this one a shot as well. I think it would be kind of fun to add to, you know, your envelope journal collection here. Alright, so now that we are finished with this one, I am going to be moving on to the second smaller envelope journal, which is very similar to the first ones, but just a slightly different kit and a slightly different envelope. So we'll go ahead and put that together here, and that'll kind of finish up our project for today. But if you do make this, make sure that you go over to our Facebook group and share it, because I want to see what you guys are making, what you're doing differently. Alright, so for this envelope here, I do want to make a quick mention. Before you put everything together, if you would leave this flap open, that is going to make life a lot simpler for you later on, and I'll kind of talk about that, but don't glue this part down if you can help it, because it's going to allow you to have an extra pocket that I didn't get to have. So I'll show you that in a minute. So to start, I am taking 2 envelopes from the kit. I just printed them off, followed the instructions. These are made out of cardstock, and I'm going to be assembling them like this. So just putting one over the other and gluing the flap down to, like, from one envelope on top of the other, just like this. All right, let's go ahead and just line them up. Try to get things as even as possible here. It helps if you kind of fold the one on the left over, make sure everything's kind of lined up properly. And then next, I'm going to be picking some ribbon here. These are just what I had on hand, but you can use any ribbon that you'd like. I'm going to be using this like purple mesh material one that's a lot wider. I think this is an 1.5 inches, I believe. It should say on the thing, but I didn't read it. And then there's this thinner cream ribbon. And then I also have some of this like pretty decorative edge, like a lacy ribbon here. So I'm going to go ahead and flip over my envelope to start, and I'm going to open it up like this. And I am going to be gluing down a strip of this larger, wider ribbon here. So I'm just going to go ahead and sort of measure that out and glue it down like this, trimming up the edges to kind of clean it up like this. And don't worry, if you're using Fabri-Tac and you can kind of see the glue through the center, don't worry about it. When it dries, it'll be completely invisible. And then I went ahead and added that lace trim to the top and bottom, just like this. So keeping it decorative here. And now we are going to go ahead and add the holes. So to punch out the holes, I am going to be measuring them with a ruler. I know I'm finally using a ruler. And I'm going to be going about every inch for about 5 inches. So right now I'm making 5 holes, and I do try to keep about 1/4 inch of space. I did not measure that, but kind of eyeballed, keeping about 1/4 inch of space between the ribbon and my ruler here. And then just in between that, sort of marking where my holes are. So just like this. And then I'm going to flip it and do the very same thing on the opposite side. So keeping that 1/4 inch of space and making 5 marks every inch. All right, so once that's done, I'm going to be taking my crocodile punch, and I'm going to be setting it to the 3/16 setting, and I'm going to be punching out the holes. And I'm using that setting because that's what matches my eyelets, so use whatever is relevant to you. And once you get all of those holes punched right where we marked, I'm going to pop in some eyelets here, and then using the eyelet press part of the crocodile, I'm just going to press those flat. and it should look something like this. Now this is where I recognize that I messed up. So if you had left this flap open, you would still be able to glue it down after you were done with this process and have a pocket here, but because I went through it, my pocket is no longer usable. So yeah, if you want to have that, you'll want to leave this part open and then glue it on top. Once you're done with all of your eyelets, you can just fold it over and glue it down on the sides. But if you do what I did, that's okay. We're just gonna go ahead and decorate it later and kind of cover it up. So don't worry too much about it if you make the same mistake I did. All right, so once you get all of your eyelets in, it should look something like this. And now we are going to go ahead and add the lace. So again, the ribbon. And this is something you'll want to do before you glue that extra flap down. So just a reminder there. So I'm measuring out, I measured out about 24 inches of ribbon. I honestly wish I'd had a little bit more. You'll see at the end here, I just had just enough to work with. So I would have probably done like another 6 inches or so. And to lace it up, I'm going to go through the front here into towards like the inside, and I'm going to pull both tails until they are even like this. And this is going to be kind of helpful here to keep your ribbon from like pulling and becoming uneven while you're working with it. So I'm going to just clip one tail down, and that'll keep it from being pulled out while I'm working, because I've had that happen and it's kind of irritating when you're trying to lace it up. So we're going to take the one that's not clipped, and we're going to just go to the opposite hole here. All right, so just going diagonally across like this and then pull it through just like that. And if you find that your ribbon while you're pulling it is getting twisted, just carefully work with it and try to untwist it if you're having that problem like this, so that it looks nice and flat. All right, just keep doing that while you're working here. And I'm just going to continue lacing through the opposite hole in a diagonal pattern going up. So just like this, through the front, through the back, just like that. And you can see I only have a little bit of string here left, so that's why I wish I had a little bit more ribbon. That's okay, we'll work with it. And I'm going to clip that ribbon down again so it doesn't come out while I'm doing the other side here. So I'm going to unclip this piece and then just do the same thing, going to the opposite side like this, up diagonally, and fix it as I go so everything is nice and flat. And then I'm going to tie those two pieces together. You could make a bow if you had it or something like that, or just tie it and cut off the extra, whatever you want. I had just enough to tie mine, so it ended up working in the end, but yeah, a little more ribbon would have helped. And then I'm going to be adding some of these satin bows. Again, I will have this linked down below if you're interested. And just using some Fabri-Tac, I'm going to glue those down the center here of my little corset back. And this is what that looks like when it's all finished. Kind of really fun, cute, decorative back for this little envelope card here. And now for these pages, I actually didn't print these at any different percentage. All I did was set my settings to print to 2 to a page, and that kind of automatically resized everything down to a perfect size that works with these envelopes. So if you if you wanted to, you could print these front and back like I did, or you could print them out just like this and glue them together. It just makes a little bit of an extra step, but whatever you're comfortable with. All right? All right, and I did about 5 or 6 papers, so that came out to 10 to 12 pages, front and back printed. So that'll be enough. Any more than that, and you're gonna get probably a little too thick. So that's what I would recommend. And then I'm gonna be taking some page tabs from the kit and just adding them sort of throughout the journal here, just finding a couple of different portions that I want to add those to, and just gluing them down towards the top here like this. All right, and then here's our little signature when it's done. And I didn't ink the edges on these, I just left them plain because I thought it looked fine as is, but you can do whatever you'd like. And now I'm going to line it up, the signature, with the crease of the envelope like this. And I'm going to clip it in place. And I did line mine up closer to the bottom so that I had room for the page tabs towards the top. So you can do whatever you want. If you want your tabs sticking out, that's perfectly fine. This is just what I did. And then I'm going to be actually using a pamphlet stitch for this instead of brads. You, again, could you you could do any stitch, or you could use brad binding or whatever you want. You could tie it in if you'd like. This is just what I'm doing. So for that, I'm taking a piece of twine that is about 2 times the length of my journal here. And then I'm going to just cut that piece off, and using an awl, same process that we did earlier, I'm going to be making 3 holes. So 1 right in the center of my signature like this. And then I'm going to go and do another one that's about 1/2 inch down from the top of this journal. 1/2 inch to 1 inch, it's up to you. Close counts, we just don't want it too close to the top because we don't want anything to tear. And then again, doing this same thing, making another hole towards the bottom, again about 1/2 inch to 1 inch up from the very bottom of the signature. And then we're going to poke that last hole, and now we can do our stitch. So for that, I'm taking my string and I'm going to lace it through my needle, and I'm going to leave a very long tail and one shorter tail. And I'm going to pull it through the center hole, going from the inside out first. And I've got this little tail here that I'm going to just hold with my thumb so it doesn't pull out, and we're going to leave that. And then I'm going to sew through the very top hole that we made like this. Just kind of wiggle and pull that through. Don't worry if it gets a little stuck here, you just got to give it a bit of a tug. Sometimes this happens when you're using like non-waxed thread, but it's okay. Just kind of work with it. It'll pull through. And then I'm going to go through the bottom hole like this. And again, pulling that tight, trying not to pull that little tail out that we left earlier. And then going back through the center, just like this. And I'm going to pull that through and take the needle off of the string. And now you should have 2 tails that are on either side of this center string. And it's really important that you have that center string on top in the middle of these 2 other strings, because we're going to tie these into a knot on top of that, and that's going to keep everything from breaking or your signature from falling out. All right, so go ahead and make a knot. I usually tie mine twice just to make sure it holds. No more than that though, because we don't want a really big thick knot in the center of our signature here. And you can leave these strings or make a little bow or add beads to them and make like a charm if you have a lot of string left. Anything up to you is fine, but I'm just going to go ahead and cut mine off for today. All right, and then I'm going through with my bone folder and I'm going to flatten out all of those pages. So again, this just helps keep things nice and smooth. And now I am adding a paper clip. I will swap this larger one for a smaller one later because I found that they were just too thick for this when I had so many in here. And I'm just going to add a couple of ephemera pieces to it to kind of hide those eyelets back there, just to kind of make it look a little more decorative and pretty, just like that. And then for decorating the front here, I'm taking this little envelope. This was actually in our scrap pile. I'm not sure which kit this is from. I will try to find it and link it down below, but you could use anything you want. It doesn't have to be this. It could be like one of the tags from the kit. And I'm going to be taking that along with a couple of other scraps that I had that had some like writing on them. And I'm going to be using one of the tickets from the kit to make some little pull tabs. So I'm just going over those scraps with a little bit of distress ink and then gluing half of that ticket onto the back of each of those, and it makes like a little tab here, just like this. And this is all just decorative. It's just for fun. You could do anything you want. This is just what I was doing. And I'm going to add some glue to the sides and bottom, like just on the left side of the envelope, and that's going to make like a little tuck spot here. So I'm just going to tuck those little scraps back there, and then added a couple of journal words and a ticket to decorate the front. And then there is a pocket here, so I'm going to add a couple of ephemera pieces into that as well. All right, and now I'm going to be taking some of the journal words that come with the kit, and I'm just going to trim them down so that they're smaller and they can fit on top of my page tabs here. So just really quick gluing those in like this. All right, and this is what that looks like when it is done. And here I am swapping out that paper clip for a smaller one again. You just don't want things too thick, so it's good to kind of check as you're going to make sure that it's not getting too thick, because you don't want it to, you know, you still want it to be able to close. All right, so I'm working with kind of flatter pieces, just kind of sticking with things like paper from the kit. I also did use a little bit of cheesecloth, but like no puff tape or things like that, just because this is so small. All right, so gonna add some journal words and make a couple of tuck spaces for like some tickets and things like that. Just kind of decorating as I go here. And I am using some pieces from the main kit and a couple of pieces from the add-on kit as well, because it just gives you a little bit more to work with. All right. So just a little bit of decorating, nothing too crazy here. Of course, you can do anything you want. This is just kind of what I was doing. All right, so that's about as thick as I'm gonna want that. So I'm gonna leave that there and do a little bit of decorating on the front. Since the back is done, we need to finish this up by decorating the front. So for that, I am going to be using some magnets to help hold the front cover shut. Now, I did try to do like a hidden magnet, and for some reason, maybe my magnets are old, but it wasn't holding. So this worked fine. I just glued the magnet right to the front and then one onto the flap, and it was pretty simple. If you don't have magnets, you could use like a Velcro sticker or something like that. It's completely up to you. Or you could do what we did before and use like this little faux wax seal to hold it shut. I just added mine decoratively on this one, so it's not actually holding anything down. It's just glued right on top of the flat. The flap. Oh boy, this is a long tutorial. And then for decorating, I added a little bit of lace trim to the bottom. I suppose it's the side, but it's also the bottom in my mind of the envelope. And then I'm also taking some of these, like this string of pearls, and I'm just adding a little bit of pearls along the edges of the flap. Now, I did realize too late that my little, what do you call this thing? The wax seal is off center here, so it makes it look a little bit crooked when everything's said and done. So make sure that you're centering stuff properly while you're working if you want to avoid that. But it's okay, I think it's still pretty. So I went ahead and added those pearls to the top and bottom of the envelope, and then I'm cutting some individual ones to glue on top of the ribbon. Now I don't know about the staying power of these. It hasn't fallen off yet, so I think it's okay, but you know, do whatever you're comfortable with. And then I'm going to add a last string of them right over the top of that wax seal like this. And now that is going to finish up the envelope. We kind of got the front and back that sort of match here with the purple and the lace. And then we've got all of these cute little decorative pieces on the inside here. Just a couple of fun, like, hidden things. This isn't meant to be super complicated, just kind of a simple, fun little addition that you could add to maybe a larger journal if you wanted to. You could add it to a pocket, or maybe sew it into a signature, or like maybe tuck it into a belly band, something like that. It's just kind of like a cute little fun extra project for maybe something larger if you'd like. All right, so that is going to finish today's tutorial. I hope you got some new inspiration. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you in the next video. Bye!